Let's jump right into it. What is a superset? A superset is basically a training method whereby you perform two exercises back to back. It's been 2 years since I first addressed supersets on this channel. Back then I focused more on how to combine free weights and calisthenics to create supersets that work opposing muscle groups. One of the things that I really like about supersets is that they provide almost endless possibilities to the trainee. Let's take a look at two multi-joint exercises that work opposing functions and therefore opposing muscle groups, the so-called Agonist-Antagonist Supersets. For example, you could pair a barbell OHP with a pull-up. The first movement strengthens the primary muscle movers during a vertical push, whereas the second targets those responsible for a vertical pull. The beauty of agonist-antagonist supersets like these is that you could rotate almost infinite variations of those two exercises without altering the functions you want to overload. Every variant will provide slightly different stimulus while you keep getting stronger at both vertical push and a vertical pull. Very slight changes will offer trainees infinite combinations all year round. Just the simple act of switching the order in which you do the two exercises is enough of a change sometimes to provide a novel stimulus. Additionally, modifying these on a regular basis will have to be the baseline approach for intermediate athletes. Not only will rotation ensure better progress, but it will also reduce the possibility of overuse injury down the road. To top it all off, supersets also have an inherent cardiovascular component. Not saying that they should replace other forms of cardio completely, but if you have a limited amount of time to train, supersets for high repetitions could get your heart rate up very quickly. Sure, you won't maximize strength gains, but you can build muscle when taking exercises close to failure. Additionally, high reps are great to improve your muscular endurance. And you leave the gym sooner, and that's the biggest perk for busy folks when it comes to supersets. Great, I really like what you're saying so far, man, but is there any downside to supersets I should be aware of? I guess my question is, who should be using supersets? Who could benefit from them? Like pretty much everything else in fitness, there is no definite answer. It all depends on your personal circumstances and your specific goals. Supersets do an amazing job at accumulating tonnage at a much faster rate than traditional straight sets. This could be an advantage when it comes to hypertrophy, where the total training volume would have to increase as the mesocycle progresses. However, your performance will have to take a slight hit in each of the movements due to fatigue. Thus, if your goal is to maximize progression with the heaviest possible load in a given rep range or to improve your absolute force production in a specific lift, supersets are not the best tool for that. In that case, you could still do supersets if you want, after the most important work for you has been completed. After all, strength is a skill, and the best way to improve a skill is to practice it on a regular basis in a rested state. Given how fatiguing supersets are, it seems like traditional sets are a better suit to develop maximal strength. That way you can prioritize your neurological gains, which is the improvement of the communication channel between your brain and the muscle fibers involved in the exercise you want to get stronger at. However, if your primary goal is not neurological but rather structural, aka muscle growth, supersets could be a useful tool in your program once your form is solid in each of the two movements you want to pair together. But how long should you rest in between the two exercises, if any time at all? If intensity is a secondary factor in your deliberations and you'd rather emphasize volume accumulation because you want to bring up your work capacity, you might want to consider keeping the rest time to a minimum. But if you want to maximize the accumulation of lifting volume using the highest possible resistance under these not so ideal conditions, then it would be wise to take a brief breather between exercises. In terms of which exercise to perform first, I recommend starting with that exercise that you really want to focus on in this training block. Sometimes I personally look at supersets as a main compound movement that is followed shortly after by a fantastic bonus that is going to complement the former in a very gnarly way. In my opinion, absolute beginners should stay away from performing agonist-antagonist supersets with two multi-joint exercises at the start. If you're new to resistance training, you should focus entirely on learning how to overload the two exercises in separate sets. The chances of technique breakdown in a metabolically stressful environment like a superset could put novices at a higher risk of injury. There are some exceptions to this rule, of course, But for the most part, you would only want to do supersets with smaller exercises, at least at the start. The last caveat I should point out to those of you who are getting excited about supersets is this. Please do not implement supersets for lower body movements. The overlapping of primary muscle movers among big lower body lifts like the RDL or squats is so great that your performance will suffer vastly in the second exercise. It's just not worth it. Supersets for leg day, not the best idea. Unless you want to die. In that case, knock yourself out.
There's only one way to get jacked.
Who said that?
Pay me with your attention and money. Buy my program or die. No refund!
Multi-joint movements like squats, lunges, deadlifts, or any variations of these under heavy loads are challenging enough on their own. Agonist and Antagonist Supersets are better suited for movements that primarily target the upper body, or simply when the trainee wants to overload single joint exercises to isolate certain muscles towards the end of the workout. So all in all, supersets could have a place in your program, especially if you're someone with limited time to train. However, I would also say that if you are someone with time to spare and you want to maximize your strength gains, then you should stick to straight sets at high intensities for the most part. Not that you shouldn't dismiss Agonist and Antagonist supersets altogether, but let's say that you could be more selective on when to implement them. As always, it all depends on your individual goals and personal circumstances. In today's video, I'm going to show you a couple of examples on how I personally use supersets with multi-joint movements. Keep in mind that some might have better real-world application due to practical or material considerations. In no particular order, these are some Agonist and Antagonist superset combinations I've been using in 2021. Check out these two other related videos on fitness and training. If you learned something new in today's video and you want to show me some appreciation, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to ring the bell to get notified every time a new video goes live. Stay fit, stay strong, peace.